First, I, 29 female, just want to establish that I am not the direct beneficiary of the favoritism. My child, 3 female, is, and it's by my older brother Mark, 35 male. 10 years ago, Mark was engaged to his high school sweetheart, Melissa, 35 female, but he caught her cheating with my other brother David, 33 male, and the engagement was off. We were all deeply sympathetic to Mark and made no secret how angry and ashamed of David we were, but David said that he was in love and never meant to hurt Mark. Eventually, our parents decided to forgive David, but he and Melissa were expecting and went to the wedding. David asked Mark and I to attend, and said he would really like for us to heal as a family for the sake of his first grandchild. Mark obviously wasn't going, and I, still conflicted, opted not to go, but sent in a gift. Instead, I spent the day with Mark, and he told me that our parents and I were free to still have David in our lives, but from that day forward, he was dead to him. The only time Mark agreed to be at the same event as David was for my college graduation and wedding. My dad has accepted that his sons will never be close again, but Mom still has her hopes up that one day there will be a reconciliation. During the virus, my husband and I hit a rough spot, and when I was venting to Mark, not asking, just venting, he direct deposited me a couple thousand and started doing every other month since May. I was grateful, but insisted that I didn't need that much and wanted to pay him back. Mark refused and said that any money I gave him, he would put into the college fund that he set up for my daughter. To save ourselves the drama, my husband and I decided not to tell my parents or David, but my mother-in-law brought it up, and now my parents. David and Melissa know that Mark also set up a college trust for my daughter, and that since Mark is child-free, she and any other children that I may have will be the sole heirs to his estate. My mom is upset that I'm taking advantage of Mark's anger towards David, and thinks I'm selfish for letting Mark play favorites against my nephew, 9, and twin nieces, 5. My parents are trying to get me to talk to Mark into giving some of his fortune to David's children, because they're innocent in all of this. I agree that they are innocent, and that playing favorites isn't very fair, but my husband doesn't want to risk Mark taking away his support. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Just to be clear, I didn't tell my mother-in-law. My husband did, because she was thinking of setting up a fund for our daughter. My husband told her that it was already being taken care of, and when she asked, he told her about Mark, but told her not to say anything. Apparently, mother-in-law thought to just not say anything when David and his wife were around, and assumed my parents knew. Not the a-hole for your actions, but please stop phrasing it that you're taking advantage, and instead say you are respecting his wishes, and you're fine. The taking advantage business makes you sound like an absolute a-hole, but I don't think you mean it that way. Mark is an adult. He is aware, I am sure, that these children are blameless, but it's on him and him alone to decide what to do about that. And he's young. He has time to think it over and grieve that previous relationship. You're not taking advantage of Mark's anger. Mark only has one sister and a guy who ducked his former fiancée, and now your family tries to squeeze him dry for some money. Absolutely disgusting. Your parents live in a fantasy where Mark should forget all the pain and hurt his brother caused, and everything will be perfect. Well, it's never going to be, and I wholeheartedly support Mark. Also, after all this time, I can believe that he's not angry at them anymore. It can be possible he just looks at the both of them as strangers, and strangers don't get to ask for money for their kids. Don't you go against Mark. He needs your support, and if you do what your parents ask for the peace and fairness of the family, I guarantee you will break his heart, and he will abandon you all. And you all would be deserving of it. It is his money and his choice to do with it what he will, not the a-hole. Everyone sucks here, except for Mark. David and Melissa for cheating and destroying a family relationship. Your parents for thinking that Mark owes them or their children anything. And you for thinking this is an instance of favoritism and not telling your parents under no circumstances will you talk to Mark about this. David and Melissa destroyed the relationship they had with Mark. They are delusional, thinking they can take advantage of there still being a family relationship with Mark after that. Mark owes them nothing. The kids are innocent, sure, but that anyone would expect Mark to act as their uncle is just BS. If David really wanted Mark to be an uncle to his kids, he should have thought about that before he had an affair with, impregnated, and married Melissa. Mark refusing to have a relationship with any of them, or finance any of them, is the natural consequences of David and Melissa's behavior. So, my grandfather passed away, and he had a trust where I was a beneficiary with 4 other grandchildren. I was told that the irrevocable trust was changed, and myself, my siblings, and cousins were removed from the trust. The trust was per stirps, so my mother, who had 3 children, would each get 1/18 of the trust. My uncle and aunt both had 1 child, who would get 1/6 of the trust. Fast forward to 2015, and my grandma, who has Alzheimer's, changes the trust to remove the grandchildren from receiving anything. So, after her death, and we find out that we were all getting 0 from the trust, I reach out to my sisters and cousins and tell them if I can find a way back into the trust if they agree to split the grandchildren share evenly between the 5 of us. We have a group text, and everyone agrees to splitting evenly if I can get us back in the trust. So I look at the irrevocable, and I am shocked that trust could even be changed with the words irrevocable. Well, turns out Arizona added statute that allows you to change an irrevocable trust, and that is what they stated in the amended trust. I noticed the rules of the irrevocable trust change basically state, if this change hurts any beneficiaries, they must be notified first. Well, the grandchildren never got notified, so boom, we have a way in. I hire a lawyer to write a letter to the trustee. We were added back to the irrevocable trust. So my cousins would get around $42K each, my siblings and I $14K each. I reached out to both of them once again by text and phone call, telling them this was your one chance to back out and keep the $42K. They both knew that I put a lot of work in and agreed to splitting it evenly, which was about $26K. After the estate was finalized, we all got our checks, and one cousin instantly wired the money to my account to split with my siblings, and the other one texted me and said it was too much money and he couldn't give it up, even though he gave his word. At that point, we are all furious that he was willing to crush our family over $16K, but that's where we were. I basically gave him one last chance to do the right thing, and after a long conversation, he basically said duck you to us. So that's where my contracts background kicked in, and I went back to the text messages where he agreed to the split and showed him that a text message constitutes a binding contract, which he obviously thought was BS. I hire another lawyer and send him a demand letter, which he offers to give me my share, but not my 2 sisters. This pisses me off beyond belief, and it becomes personal now. I don't care if I lose and spend the entire $14K I receive. I just want to win. So we send a letter back stating that we want the full $16K and end up settling on $14K before it goes to court. Not the a-hole. Rake him over the coals and go after your court costs and attorney fees as well. Your cousin is a D. My sisters and I actually paid the entire $1,500 for the lawyer that got us back in the trust, since we were to benefit the most. My lawyer fees for suing him was only $150. Friend of mine. I'm sure his were way more. Also, my grandma tried to change the trust to be split evenly in 2004, but since it was irrevocable, they couldn't change it. She wanted the change. Cousin who did follow through has not been talked to in 27 years. This jerk spends every Christmas with us. His father and him both stopped talking to us. Not the a-hole. Your cousin sounds like a jerk. That money wasn't even really his in the first place. Everyone sucks here. Who wants dead people's money anyway? I lived through this, and this money is poison. Make your own way, and be happy from the fruits of your own work. My parents died when I was 25, right after I bought my first and current house. I ended up selling their home, paying off my house, and creating a trust fund for myself. A year after that, I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter. For complicated reasons, my daughter does not and will never have a father. So when she was born, I added her name to the fund and decided that that trust fund would fulfill the monetary place of her father and a husband for me. It would be used to fulfill financial gaps that we would need as a family. Over the years, while I had to take money out, it has grown in size. My daughter is now 15, and I got married 2 years ago. We've been trying to have a baby, but I'm older now and near menopause. We've been told that our only chance is IVF with a donor egg. My husband really wants a child. I'd like one too, but I was surprised to have one child, so I'm not devastated if it doesn't happen. He wants to use part of the family trust fund to pay for IVF. While it wouldn't deplete the fund, it would make a serious dent. I don't want to. At this point, I'm looking towards my daughter's college. I'm looking towards my retirement and the fact that I've been laid off for months in my 40s in very unstable times. This isn't the time to take out almost a quarter of a trust fund on a chance, not to mention the long-term ramifications and interest. Even if IVF worked, I'm not sure I would want to include the new child as a beneficiary anyhow, due to the promise I made to my daughter when I was holding her in the hospital, that while she couldn't have a physical father, she would have as much support as she would get otherwise. My husband is irate that I won't do it. He says that I must not really want to have a family with him, and that I'll always view it as my daughter and I against him. I don't. It's just that I view things more rationally. I just can't justify it. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. And your husband of 2 years wants you to commit to an advanced aged pregnancy, with its associated risks, then raising a young child through your 50s. This is about much more than using money from the trust fund to finance a complete change in the trajectory of your life to satisfy his wants for a child. I'm also bothered, though, by your obsession with providing everything for the child you have at the expense of any other children. What if you became pregnant without treatment? Are you saying you would be happy to leave a younger child with less no matter what? Couples counseling might help both of you here. Everyone sucks here. Your husband should not pressure you to do IVF if you don't want to and use your trust fund. Full stop. That's not okay. But your attitude towards your husband is weird. You and your daughter are part of his family now. He's her stepfather. It's very weird to not include your theoretical new child in the trust that's meant to take care of your family, and to view it as she'll never have a father, when she now has someone to fill that role. I get why he feels like it's the two of you against him. Y'all really should have talked all this out before you got married. Absolutely not the a-hole. You've held that promise to your daughter for 15 years. In my unprofessional opinion, it would be unfair to her if you broke that promise because someone asked you to. It doesn't matter that you're married. For 10 plus years, it was just you and her. The trust was just you and her. It is your money. It is her money. It is not his money, and he doesn't get to choose how it's spent. He has no more right over it than I do over my best friend's money. I have an older sister, Maya, 28, and a younger sister, Harper, 16. Maya is married, and her husband are unable to have a baby on their own. They want to adopt a baby, and have been waiting for one for almost 2 years now, I think. Harper is currently pregnant at 16 with an unplanned baby. Harper was devastated when she found out, but Maya was ecstatic and convinced Harper to give birth to the baby and let Maya adopt it. Maya promised Harper that they will help her through the pregnancy, take good care of the baby, and Harper can be in the baby's life as an aunt role. This was the plan for about 2 months, and everyone was happy, until Maya and her husband met the baby's father. The baby's father was okay with the adoption too, but that wasn't the issue. The problem was that Maya and her husband thought he was really ugly. The boy is short, overweight, and has a prominent nose, and that was enough for Maya and her husband to change their mind about the adoption. I was there when Maya told Harper they wouldn't adopt the baby. Harper broke down and just kept repeating, "You said you would adopt it and give the baby a good life. What am I going to do now?" Over and over again. Maya's husband told her that she should have told them how the father looked. They accused Harper of purposely hiding the baby's father, because she must have known that they wouldn't want to adopt the baby if they saw him. I told them that they don't deserve a baby, any baby, and I hope nobody will ever give them one. I also told Maya that I think she is infertile for a reason. The universe knows what a terrible person she is, and that's why she can't have a baby. Maya started crying. They left, and now even my father is mad at me. He says Maya has every right to decide which baby she wants to adopt. We can't force Harper's baby on her, and I owe her a huge apology for what I said. Maybe I went too far by saying Maya is infertile for a reason, but she is a shallow person, and I feel like she deserved it for what she did to Harper. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your sister sounds so vain. Is she looking for a baby or an Instagram accessory? Harper will have a line of people willing to adopt a healthy infant. I wouldn't want this shallow person adopting anyone either. There are plenty more deserving people. Was what you said incredibly hurtful? Hell yes. Did she deserve it? Hell yes. If not for being so shallow, she only wants babies from attractive people, which is bad enough. She certainly is a total jerk for leading 16-year-old on, convincing them to continue the pregnancy just to back out later, especially because it's her little sister. I hope she doesn't get kids. Her morals are off. She bases child choice for shallow reasons, cries when called out on what a total jerk she is being. No one wants a mom like that. What you said rings true, not the a-hole. Oh boy, I was all set to call you an a-hole. And then I got to the part where your sister backed out of adopting a child that she convinced a teenager to carry to term, because the baby would be genetically related to someone she thinks is ugly. What the actual ducking duck? You said something terrible, you really did. But you know what? Maya deserved it. There is now going to be a baby, your niece or nephew, who will have a harder life. Your little sister will have a harder life. Maya should, at the very least, know what she did. She probably destroyed her sister's life and condemned that baby to, at best, poverty and struggle. All for looks. For looks. I repeat, what the actual duck, not the a-hole. I've been married to my second husband, Mike, for 4 years now. He's a jokester and loves to crack jokes all the time. He especially likes to joke with my brother, Ethan, and his wife. Ethan used to be okay with it, till he started complaining about Mike taking it too far with his jokes. Some context about Ethan. He and his wife couldn't have kids, so they adopted a boy, Joey, 2 years ago. Mike has been making silly, lighthearted jokes that involve Joey's bio parents as a way to mess with Ethan and his wife. I already talked to Mike, and I tell you that he's 100% means no harm. He was just trying to get them to react. So fast forward to New Year's Eve. My parents hosted a big celebratory dinner, and Ethan and his wife came. While we were eating dinner, Mike decided to tell a knock-knock joke to Ethan. He said, "Knock knock." Ethan laughed and said, "Who's there?" Mike replied, "Joey's bio parents." Then he bursted out laughing. Silence took over and Ethan's facial expressions changed. His wife called Mike an idiot, to which Mike replied with, "Hey, relax, it was just a joke." An argument ensued, and dinner was paused. My parents suddenly told Mike to leave, which I thought was too harsh. I tried to speak to them and get them to calm down, but Mom insisted that Mike leave. We went, and Mike was complaining the whole time about how they overreacted. I called Mom later, and she told me Mike was out of line with his hurtful jokes about this touchy topic, and told me I was wrong for defending him and saying he was just joking. She said he ruined New Year's for the family, but I told her it was her and Dad who ruined New Year's celebration for escalating the situation and kicking him out. I told her he could talk to them, but again, they were the ones who ruined New Year's celebration. She called me delusional for this statement and hung up. We haven't talked to them for days. I tried contacting Ethan, but no response. Wow. Yeah, you're the a-hole. Adoption is 100% not a joke, especially when you're making them to an adoptee, about an adoptee, or about an adoptee's bio family. Grow up and find something actually funny to joke about. I won't be surprised when Ethan and his family cut y'all out of their lives. Wow, yeah, you're the a-hole. Sorry, but your Mike is an a-hole. Not uncommon for the jokesters who love to crack jokes to mess with people. Duck that. It's not in good spirit. It's one-sided, aggressive, and just disgusting. It's not lighthearted or silly. It's just mean. The sentence, "Relax, it was just a joke," is horrible. Your Mike hides behind this excuse to be an a-hole and a jerk to people, to push their buttons, to be mean, and then retreat when they get upset by calling it all a joke. You are enabling and supporting that, which makes you no better. You're the a-hole, and so is your husband. Mike has been making silly, lighthearted jokes that involve Joey's bio parents as a way to mess with Ethan and his wife. What the actual fudge? That is terrible. I am mortified.